In the dying days of the Second World War, as Hitler's empire collapsed into ruins, whispers spread of a vast fortune, gold, priceless art, and stolen treasures vanishing into the shadows of history. Some said it was buried deep in the Alps. Others claimed it was smuggled out under the noses of the Allies. But hidden inside British intelligence files lies a story few dared to tell. A relentless pursuit, a secret chase for Hitler's gold, carried out in silence by men sworn to the crown. This is not legend. This is history. Buried, classified, and nearly forgotten. Join us as we uncover the truth behind Britain's secret pursuit of Nazi fortune. And if you want to be the first to witness the untold chapters of World War II, subscribe now. Because what you're about to hear will change the way you see the war forever. Berlin, April 1945. The once proud capital of the Reich was now a scarred ruin. Soviet artillery thundered from the east, shattering what remained of Hitler's broken empire. Civilians huddled in basements, listening to the sky split open with fire. Amid the chaos, trucks rumbled through the night, their cargo shrouded in secrecy. Not soldiers, not weapons, but something far more valuable. Inside iron crates lay fortunes seized during years of conquest. Gold bars marked with foreign stamps, jewels stripped from Jewish families, artworks pulled from the grand museums of Europe. Each box was a silent witness to theft on an unimaginable scale. And as the Reich prepared to fall, Hitler's loyal men faced a single command: ensure these treasures never fall into enemy hands. British intelligence had been watching. Through a network of spies and listening posts, reports filtered in. Massive shipments leaving Berlin, convoys heading south toward the mountains. Some said they were bound for the Bavarian Alps, where the Nazis dreamed of a final redoubt, a fortress from which they could resist the Allies indefinitely. Others whispered of trains disappearing into tunnels, of submarines prepared to carry gold across oceans. The British were no strangers to German deception. They had cracked the Enigma code, infiltrated the Abwehr, and played the long game of intelligence better than anyone else. But the prospect of Nazi wealth slipping into the shadows was different. This wasn't just about treasure, it was about power. Whoever controlled the hidden fortune could shape the post-war world. In London, Whitehall grew uneasy. Files marked most secret landed on desks in the corridors of MI6 and the Special Operations Executive. These documents spoke of desperate Nazi officers forging routes through Austria and Switzerland, carrying suitcases heavy with Reichsbank gold. Some shipments vanished without trace. Others were intercepted, but the amounts never matched what the Reich had once held. It was as if entire vaults had been swallowed by the earth. One report, scribbled in haste by a British agent in Switzerland, described a chilling encounter. He claimed to have overheard a German banker boasting in a Zurich cafe, "The Reich's wealth will not die with Hitler. It will be reborn when no Englishman can touch it." Was it bravado or was it a clue? The question gnawed at the British War Cabinet. The Americans were already hunting for Nazi gold with Operation Safe Haven, seeking to cut off escape routes for war criminals. But Britain had its own stake. The empire was exhausted, bled dry by 6 years of war. Gold meant leverage, bargaining power, survival in the new world that was coming. To let it slip away into the hands of fleeing Nazis, or worse, into Soviet grasp, was unthinkable. Thus, a decision was made. Quietly, with no fanfare, a task force was assembled. MI6 officers, military intelligence analysts, even former commandos were drawn into the hunt. Their mission: follow the whispers, trace the convoys, and recover what had been stolen before it disappeared forever. But the truth was slippery. Every clue led to another question. Every intercepted message hinted at deeper secrets. Was the gold in a salt mine near Merkers, where the Americans had found part of the Reichsbank reserves? Or was that merely a distraction, a decoy meant to conceal the real treasure? By late April, as the Red Army closed its iron fist around Berlin, British operatives intercepted one final message. It was brief, encoded and urgent. The cargo is west. Secure before contact. The words struck like lightning. West, not south to the Alps, not hidden in Swiss banks, but westward, toward territory soon to be overrun by the British themselves. It was the first solid lead, the first sign that the Reich's gold might still be within reach, yet even as the ink dried on the decrypted message, doubts lingered. Was it truth or bait? The British task force prepared to move. Their pursuit of Hitler's gold was about to begin, and their first step would take them into territory no Allied officer dared tread alone. The war in Europe was drawing to a close, but for the men of Britain's secret task force, a new and dangerous mission was only beginning. Their orders were simple on paper, yet impossibly complex in the field. Follow the whispers. Find the treasure and bring it home. Major Robert Ellison, a veteran of clandestine operations in France, was placed in command. He was no stranger to risk, parachuting behind German lines, arming resistance fighters, living in the shadows. But this hunt was different. It was not just a military operation. It was a descent into the murky world of vanished fortunes, coded messages, and men who would rather die than surrender their secrets. Ellison's unit crossed into the ravaged heart of Germany under the cover of official occupation duties. The cities they passed were unrecognizable, charred husks of once proud towns, skeletal factories, and rivers clogged with debris. Yet amid the devastation, rumors traveled faster than the wind. Farmers spoke of German trucks that had thundered down dirt roads in the dead of night, their tarps pulled tight over crates. Prisoners of war whispered of officers boasting that the Führer's gold had been spirited away to safety. Each tale was vague, distorted, but impossible to ignore. The British sifted through abandoned strongholds, turning over every stone. In a deserted castle near Kassel, they found a cellar packed with stolen paintings, stacked like firewood, masterpieces stripped from Parisian galleries. But there was no gold. In the forests of Thuringia, they discovered a derailed train, its cars crammed with uniforms, weapons, even fine porcelain. But again, no gold. Ellison knew they were chasing shadows, and shadows could be deadly. One night, a coded message intercepted by British signals intelligence sent the team racing to an old salt mine. The Americans had already seized Merker's mine, uncovering piles of Reichsbank gold and priceless art. But Ellison suspected it was a decoy, treasure planted to distract Allied eyes from the larger prize. His suspicions only deepened when a captured SS officer, gaunt and defiant, sneered at his interrogators. "You think you've won. You've found nothing. The true treasure waits where your greedy hands will never reach," the words gnawed at Ellison. Was the officer bluffing, or was he warning them of something hidden in plain sight? As spring turned to summer, the task force pushed deeper westward. They combed through monasteries, raided bank vaults, and followed trails of forged documents. At every turn, they clashed not only with the remnants of the Reich, but also with the ambitions of their supposed allies. The Americans were sweeping across southern Germany, scooping up treasures for themselves. The Soviets, ruthless and relentless, stripped entire factories and museums bare. For the British, every delay meant losing ground in a race they could not afford to lose. Then came a break. In a half-collapsed bunker outside Cologne, hidden beneath a pile of discarded uniforms, Ellison's men uncovered a battered leather satchel. Inside were coded ledgers, water-stained but legible. The entries were meticulous, recording the movement of shipments in the war's final weeks. One stood out: Convoy 77B, cargo secured. Destination: west of the Rhine, await further instruction. The handwriting was precise, the date chillingly close to Hitler's final days. Ellison's pulse quickened as he studied the page. This was no rumor, no drunken boast. It was a hard lead, pointing to something tangible. But what lay west of the Rhine? The area was crawling with displaced soldiers, black marketeers and spies from every side. To follow the trail meant stepping into a web of danger where the line between friend and foe blurred with every mile. Ellison closed the satchel, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The British trail had begun to narrow, and with it, The peril grew sharper. What awaited them west of the Rhine was either the key to Hitler's hidden fortune or the trap that would destroy them all. The Rhine loomed ahead, a wide ribbon of steel-grey water cutting through the scarred German countryside. Bridges had been destroyed, towns levelled, and the air smelled of smoke and mud. Major Robert Ellison's team advanced cautiously, boots crunching over rubble, eyes scanning every ruined building. Every shadow could conceal a sniper, a desperate Nazi loyalist, or a trap set for those chasing the gold. The western approach was deceptive. Villages seemed deserted, yet in every doorway, behind every shuttered window, whispers of the Reich's remaining treasures lingered. Ellison's men had learned to listen carefully. The British operatives split into small units, combing through basements, barns, and crumbling castles, questioning locals and former officers alike. Most spoke in hushed tones, eyes darting nervously. Some provided false leads, hoping to protect hidden caches. Others spoke the truth, though fear made them cagey, revealing pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit neatly together. One rainy afternoon, the team arrived at a small inn on the outskirts of Bonn. The proprietor, a wiry man with haunted eyes, claimed to know of movements that even the Allies haven't heard. He spoke of a convoy seen weeks ago, heading west under the cover of darkness, disappearing into dense forests near the Dutch border. Every detail was fragmentary, but it was enough to reignite the British pursuit. The next days were a test of endurance. Soldiers pressed forward through bogs and bombed-out roads, decoding partial messages intercepted from fleeing German units. Ellison, increasingly obsessed, pored over every line in the ledgers recovered near Cologne. Some entries hinted at hidden accounts in neutral countries. Others suggested underground tunnels that could hide tons of gold. The further west they moved, the more desperate the Reich's men became, leaving behind a trail of deception, betrayal, and cryptic warnings. In one abandoned chateau, the team found evidence of Nazi bureaucrats preparing for evacuation. Maps marked in meticulous script revealed multiple potential caches, each more elaborate than the last. Ellison realized the Reich had deliberately scattered their fortune, not just to hide it, but to test the resolve of those who would seek it. Every decoy, every false trail, every destroyed record was a message. You will not succeed easily. Amid these discoveries, morale strained under the weight of uncertainty. Soldiers began to question the mission. Was it a noble pursuit of justice, or a fool's errand chasing greed in the ruins of a dead empire? Yet Ellison pressed on, convinced that the gold's recovery was critical not only to Britain's post-war position, but to prevent the wealth from fueling chaos in a Europe already scarred by conflict. Then, just as hope began to mount, a critical contact vanished. A former German intelligence officer who had agreed to guide the British along a secret route west of the Rhine failed to appear at a prearranged rendezvous. Messages left at safe houses went unanswered. No body, no trace, only silence. Ellison felt a chill. The man had been their most reliable source, the one who could connect the fragmented intelligence threads. Without him, the British operatives faced uncertainty on a scale far greater than any they had encountered in France, Belgium, or the bombed cities of Germany. Yet somewhere, beyond the fog of uncertainty, the promise of the Reich's hidden fortune lingered. The gold was out there, west of the Rhine, just beyond reach, but so too were unknown dangers that might end the pursuit forever. Ellison clenched his jaw and looked at the map, the forests stretching endlessly. They were close, too close perhaps, and the next step would lead them straight into the shadows, where enemies lurked in places no soldier dared to tread. The forests west of the Rhine had grown silent, but not from peace. Each rustle of leaves, every crack of a branch underfoot, set nerves on edge. Major Ellison's team pressed forward, wary of traps, ambushes, and the invisible eyes that might be watching them from the shadows. The closer they came to the rumored gold, the more perilous their mission became, and the line between ally and enemy blurred with every mile. False leads began to plague the task force. Maps discovered in abandoned estates contradicted eyewitness reports. Messages intercepted from supposed informants led to empty barns and decayed cellars. Ellison's men began to whisper that the Reich's fortune was not simply hidden, it was actively hunting them, a ghostly adversary that anticipated every move. The psychological toll was immense. Soldiers who had faced frontline combat were now wary of every step, haunted not by shells and bullets, but by deception itself. One afternoon, the team encountered a black marketeer who claimed to have knowledge of a shipment hidden in an old monastery. Near the Moselle River, the man's eyes darted nervously as he spoke of German officers paying exorbitant sums to secure their rightful fortune from the Allies' reach. His information seemed credible, but Ellison sensed the subtle hesitation, the half-truths that masked deeper lies. Trust in occupied territory had become a commodity as fragile and fleeting as the gold they sought. Complicating matters further, whispers emerged that a member of their network, someone they had relied on for weeks, was communicating with outside parties, possibly the Americans or even surviving SS officers. Ellison could not yet confirm it, but the possibility of betrayal sent a shiver through him. Every lead, every coded message now carried the weight of suspicion. To proceed recklessly could mean death. To hesitate could mean losing the treasure entirely. Night fell like a curtain over the forest, and with it came an uneasy quiet. The task force huddled in a ruined barn, poring over notes, maps, and the fragmented ledgers they had recovered. Ellison traced lines on a map, calculating the most probable routes the convoys might have taken. One point emerged repeatedly. A nondescript village, overlooked by all but a few locals, seemed to be at the center of the network. At dawn, they set out for the village. The air was thick with mist, and visibility was poor. The sense of imminent danger was palpable. Every shadow could conceal a sentry, a trap, or a sniper waiting to strike. They moved cautiously, weapon barrels angled forward, hearts hammering. The villagers seemed ordinary, benign even, but Ellison knew better. The Reich had perfected camouflage, and even the most innocent facade could hide deadly intent. Then, at the edge of the village, a sudden movement froze the team. Figures emerged from the tree line. Uniformed men, some wearing the insignia of defeated German units, others shrouded in ambiguity. A tense standoff ensued, eyes locked on silhouettes. Ellison raised his hand, signaling caution. Was this an ambush, or a chance at crucial information? Before he could act, one of the figures stepped forward holding a piece of paper. The handwriting was unmistakable, chilling in its precision. It mapped a route, yes, but with a hidden warning. Proceed west and die. The treasure is not yours. The message confirmed Ellison's darkest fear. They were being led into a trap. The British operatives froze, the wind carrying the echo of betrayal through the misty forest. Every decision now carried the weight of survival and failure. One misstep, and the Reich's final defense of its wealth would be their undoing. And yet, somewhere beyond the mist, the promise of gold still gleamed, a prize worth the danger, if they could survive the deceit that awaited them. The morning mist clung to the ruins like a shroud as Major Ellison and his team moved deeper into the Rhineland. Every step seemed to echo with the ghosts of a war that had already claimed millions, yet their mission was far from over. The Reich's fortune had eluded them for months, weaving a web of deception across forests, towns, and abandoned estates. And now, every clue suggested that the gold was not concentrated in one place, but dispersed across a network of hidden caches, each more ingeniously concealed than the last. Ellison's instincts told him that the Reich had anticipated pursuit. They had scattered their wealth, not just to hide it, but to test those who sought it. Every cache was a trap disguised as a treasure trove. Soldiers, maps, and coded ledgers were all pieces of a puzzle designed to mislead, misinform, and, if necessary, kill. Their first discovery came at a secluded monastery perched atop a craggy hill. The monks had fled months earlier, leaving behind secret vaults once used to hide valuables during the bombing raids. Within the stone walls, Ellison's men uncovered a small collection of gold coins, silver ingots, and a handful of documents detailing the movement of larger shipments. Though a fraction of the rumored fortune, it confirmed their suspicions. The Nazis had planned meticulously, and what lay ahead was far more elaborate. As they traced leads from the monastery, the team encountered signs of others on the hunt. Tire tracks, hastily abandoned camps, and whispered rumors pointed to American operatives combing the same territory. Even more alarming were reports of surviving SS officers moving with uncanny precision, their loyalty to Hitler or to the Reich's wealth unbroken. Ellison realized that every step forward risked confrontation, not just with men desperate to protect the gold, but with operatives whose allegiance could shift at any moment. In a dilapidated chateau outside Trier, Ellison's team uncovered a hidden passage beneath a wine cellar. The tunnel was narrow, damp, and filled with the scent of decay. They followed it for hours, emerging in a cavern where crates marked with the Reichsbank's seal were stacked like macabre trophies. The gold was here, but so too was danger. Footsteps echoed from deeper within the cavern, deliberate and cautious. A Nazi officer appeared, his uniform torn, eyes cold and calculating. He had survived the war's chaos to protect one of the Reich's greatest secrets. Ellison recognized the stakes. Any misstep would trigger a firefight, one that could cost them not only the treasure, but their lives. Words were exchanged, threats veiled beneath forced civility. The officer knew the terrain, the tunnels, and the psychology of pursuit. He was a predator guarding the last prize. The tension was unbearable. Every heartbeat echoed in the cavern, every shadow a potential threat. Ellison's men prepared for confrontation, understanding that the next move could change everything. Their months-long pursuit had brought them here, into the brink of discovery, or disaster. Then one of the crates shifted slightly, revealing a partial map and a ledger detailing another location far more secure, farther west and heavily guarded. The scale of the final cache was staggering, suggesting that the true fortune remained tantalizingly out of reach. Ellison's pulse quickened. They were closer than ever to the heart of the Reich's hidden wealth, but the path forward was fraught with danger. Every choice, every hesitation, could determine whether they would succeed or fall victim to the meticulous traps laid by men who had dedicated their lives to hiding history's most infamous fortune. And in the shadows beyond the cavern, the Reich's final guardian waited, ready to strike, and only one side would emerge victorious. The forest west of the Rhine had grown eerily silent. Even the wind seemed to pause, holding its breath as Major Robert Ellison and his team approached the final location indicated in the Reich's meticulously coded ledger. After months of chasing shadows, following fragments of intelligence, and navigating deception at every turn, they were finally on the cusp of uncovering Hitler's hidden fortune. Yet the weight of anticipation was heavy. This was no longer just a mission. It was a test of courage, morality, and resolve. The entrance to the cavern was almost imperceptible, a narrow crevice concealed beneath centuries of moss and detritus. Ellison's men moved cautiously, their torches illuminating jagged walls, reflecting off puddles of stagnant water. Every step forward was deliberate, measured, each one potentially their last. The deeper they went, the more the cavern seemed alive, a tomb guarding secrets that had been deliberately buried in darkness. Inside, the true scale of the Reich's final cache became evident. Crates of gold, bundles of uncut diamonds, and priceless artwork lay stacked like a fortress. Ellison felt a surge of awe, tinged with unease. This wealth, amassed through years of war, theft, and unimaginable human suffering, was a testament to both the ambition and the ruthlessness of those who had orchestrated it. He realized that the treasure was not just material, it was history frozen in time, a silent witness to the horrors of the Third Reich, but they were not alone. From the shadows, the final guardian emerged. A surviving Nazi officer, gaunt, eyes cold and unyielding, determined to protect the fortune at all costs. He had waited for this moment, prepared to defend the legacy of a fallen empire with lethal precision. The air grew thick with tension as Ellison's team faced the culmination of months of pursuit. Every prior deception, every false trail, every moment of doubt had led them to this standoff. Words were exchanged, threats veiled in civility. Ellison understood that negotiation would only go so far. This man, like the Reich itself, was unrepentant, consumed by ideology and greed. Any hesitation could be fatal, yet the British soldiers were disciplined, trained for moments like this, and for the first time, the full gravity of the mission crystallized. Their success meant not only recovering the treasure, but preventing it from being misused in the fragile post-war world. Suddenly, a misstep, one crate shifted unexpectedly. The officer reacted instantly, gun drawn. Ellison signaled his team with subtle gestures, weapons at the ready. Time seemed to slow, every heartbeat echoing in the cavern. The standoff was fragile, a balance between skill, nerve, and strategy. Ellison advanced cautiously, speaking in measured tones, appealing to reason, while simultaneously positioning his men for a calculated strike. The confrontation ended in a tense but decisive maneuver. Ellison's team neutralized the threat without unnecessary bloodshed, securing the officer and ensuring he could no longer interfere. The gold was theirs, but the victory was bittersweet. As they catalogued the treasure, Ellison reflected on the journey. The months of pursuit had exacted a cost not measured in casualties alone, but in sleepless nights, moral compromise, and the constant pressure of navigating a world where allies and enemies were indistinguishable. The operation concluded with the recovered fortune transported to secure British vaults. Each artifact, each ingot of gold, represented not only wealth, but a chapter of history, salvaged from chaos. Yet the broader implications were profound. The treasure, once a tool of oppression, had been reclaimed not for greed, but for the reconstruction of a world shattered by conflict. Ellison understood that history was not only written in textbooks, it was hidden in vaults, in ledgers, in shadows, and sometimes in the courage of those willing to pursue truth where others feared to tread. In the quiet aftermath, Ellison looked at his men. Their faces were etched with exhaustion, relief, and the knowledge that they had been part of something far larger than themselves. They had navigated betrayal, deception, and danger to secure a legacy that could have altered the course of post-war Europe. And yet, the mission also left a lingering question. How much of history would remain hidden forever, and how many secrets were too dangerous, too volatile, or too human to ever be fully revealed? As the cameras of history might one day tell, the pursuit of Hitler's gold was more than a story of wealth. It was a testament to the resilience, ingenuity, and moral struggle of those who dared to follow the shadows of war to their end. The British task force returned to London, the gold secured, yet the echoes of the hunt remained. The moral ambiguity, the human cost, the thrill of pursuit, and the haunting realization that even victory carries weight, all these elements lingered in their minds. And as Ellison walked along the foggy Thames that night, he understood the ultimate lesson of their mission. History is never just what is written, it is what is hidden, what is pursued, and what is uncovered against the odds. If you've been captivated by this journey, the untold stories of Driepu, the pursuit of secrets, and the hidden truths that shaped history, don't forget to comment below with your thoughts and subscribe. Every hidden corner of history deserves to be explored, and every story has a shadow waiting to be revealed. The hunt for truth may end in one place, but its echoes resonate forever.